more than 50%, more than 100%, okay? And you might have those things that happen to you in your marriage.
So what's the mission statement for a successful marriage? The ultimate goal in marriage is to get to heaven and to take your spouse and your children with you. I mean, that's really it. In Matthew it says, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Nothing in life really matters. Nothing. I don't care how many degrees you have, how much money you owe for your college education, how big your house is, what kind of car you drive, or how much money that you have. You can't take anything like that with you. But if you're blessed, you can take your spouse and your children.
Peter and I were able to have a good, we knew that, but we had a good lesson in seeing that. My mother died over a period of some months, but my mother was a very accomplished woman. She had a master's degree. She had saved up a nice nest egg, and she had a nice piano. She had a lot of things. But as she slowly got to the end of her life, those things didn't matter anymore. I can remember when she retired, finally after years and years of teaching school, she finally got into the soap operas. And she would call me up and she'd talk over, point plots and who did what to who and what was going on. It was kind of fun to talk to her. And then when she got really sick, we had her in St. Edwards, and she was in the nursing home part. I said, Peter, she's got to have her TV. She's got to have it. So Peter trudged out and got her TV and hooked it up the cable and got her all set up. And then she wouldn't watch it. And I said to her, Mom, why aren't you watching your shows? And she goes, well, I guess I'm not as addicted to them as you are. But the point was that even though the one thing that she enjoyed was, it meant something to her. As she was dying, she let go of those things. When you get to the end of your life, those things that really seem to matter a lot don't make that much difference.
So what can block our vision of a sacramental marriage? There's a widespread belief in our culture that it's part of what our Holy Fathers call the culture of death. It is a contraceptive mentality that permeates our culture. It is not the view of God, one that glorifies God and sets heaven as the ultimate goal. It is a view that puts self and personal happiness as supreme. A view that looks at children as burdens instead of our Catholic faith looks at it as a blessing. A view that takes God out of the equation, but also our own lack of knowledge about our Catholic faith and how to live a Catholic lifestyle can block our vision of what a marriage should be. We all live in this culture. We all, setting our sights on heaven is like starting a pilgrimage for a long journey. You could say this like learning to play a musical instrument. Some folks will be prodigies and others will have special gifts. There are folks like St. Teresa the Little Flower who seem to have a heavenly vision from an early age onward. The rest of us kind of have to practice. So how do we get to a sacramental marriage? You give your life to it. Itzhak Perlman was a great violinist. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of him. He usually walks around with crutches. He had polio at the age of 4. And I mean, he's wonderful at playing. And every time he's done playing, there's a long line of people that want to come up and meet him because, when somebody is that good, you just want to kind of bask in their glory. So everyone was coming up to meet him, and one woman comes up, shakes his hand, and says, "Oh, I'd do anything to play like you." Well, he says, "Would you give your life for it?" Because that's what I've done. I've given my life to play this well. And that's kind of what you have to do to get a good marriage. You kind of have to give your life for it. You have to practice. But just like this, like Perlman, after a while, the practice doesn't become, and you can really get the joy out of the marriage. And you can get that by, we're doing the hard work first. Marriage is as much of a vocation as the priesthood, sisterhood, single life. Marriage is a vocation. A vocation is a call of holiness in a specific state of life. Either we submit our sexuality to the Lord in chastity through singleness, consecrated life, or holy orders, or we submit our sexuality to Him in chastity within marriage. There is no double standard. God is holy, and He wants us to be holy too.
Now, this isn't necessarily easy, and all of you will come into the marriage with some handicaps. Peter and I did too. Our handicap, as I mentioned before, was that we had poor catechesis in junior high school and high school. Consequently, we did not live our faith in early marriage. Although we never totally drifted away from the church, but we were kind of, Easter, Christmas kind of showing up then. Yet we were able to turn that around and to have a full, rich, sacramental married life. It took patience and God's grace. The turning point for me was the birth of my first child. I can remember being in labor over here at Acton General with my first child, and they had to hook up with a fetal heart monitor and all that. And all of a sudden, my blood pressure dropped, and the baby's heart went down, and the doors, burst open, and the nurses came in, and they put me on my side, and they put the oxygen mask in. And I'm really scared. Can you imagine? And I remember praying, "Oh God, please save me, and please save my baby." And at that moment, I felt like such a hypocrite, because I had not really prayed or had a relationship with God for maybe the past 15 years. But that incident was the beginning of our renewed acquaintance, and I've developed a relationship with God ever since then. Now, it wasn't a St. Paul type of experience, where St. Paul, boom, he had this thing happen to him, and then he was a wonderful apostle. It wasn't like that. It took time, and I'm still working on it. We're still working on it. Now, trying to be holy when it's not in your nature, right, is hard work. I remember one day about, maybe 12 years ago or so, when I had a bunch of little kids. And I was trying desperately, this is what I'm trying to refer back to my Catholic faith, and I really wanted a holy household, and I wanted it to be like what I imagined the Holy Family had in Nazareth. And the only problem was that none of my children were Jesus Christ. They were my kids. So the kids would fidget during prayer time, and they would twirl their rosaries around, and they couldn't remember anything of the religion class I tried to give them that morning. And because I had 4 boys in a row first, I don't recommend that, but that's what happened. They were always punching, pulling, tugging, and annoying each other. They're a little bit like that now, too, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. And I now recognize that was a clear case of testosterone toxicity. And I remember I was trying to push them out the door to get to daily mass, and one of my boys let out a blood-curdling scream because one of his brothers had stomped on his foot. And I had just said, I'm trying to be like Mary here. And I said, I want a holy family, damn it. And probably my oldest son said, well, you're not out to American. And my kids still tease me about that. You have to start with a personal relationship with God as an individual. So that means, you have to start as the woman herself. You ladies have to have a relationship with God, and you gentlemen too. Then you have to pray together. Now, I always felt that when we were praying together that it was more intimate, and I felt more naked than actually during the sex act, because you're praying with your spouse before God. And that was hard for us to overcome at first. I will say, though, that my husband over the years has become wonderful at spontaneous prayer. He's really good at that. He used to believe. He's really good. We started praying the divine office together. Especially in the summertime, he has a little bit more time. We can do morning prayer together. But now that he's totally swamped at work, we do nighttime prayer together. And I'll share one little thing that's kind of funny. There's a part in night prayer in the divine office where it says, Lord, grant us like a restful sleep and a peaceful death. Peter always puts in for that tonight. But that gives us something to work on together, so we can pray together. Say the rosary together. And I will tell you, if you guys look on the internet, there's a service online where you can take the bouquet flowers from your petals, and you can have those drive on in the mortar and make a rosary for you, maybe make a nice keepsake, and remind you to say the rosary more. Say grace in meals, before meals together. Even when you're out together, nothing really makes you think, okay, am I committed to my Christian faith or not? When you're praying in public together, and we have our kids do that too, and now they don't even question it. Participate in the sacraments, particularly the Eucharist, and even confession. You guys can go to confession now. It's a great way to start with a clean slate before you get married. Go to confession, have a really good time with the priest. So we have wonderful priests here, really good confessors. Go to Mass every week, and try to sneak in a weekday Mass. I really like the weekday Masses. They're a little bit more intimate. They just have a different feel to them. You might find that you like those a little bit better too. Go on a post-Cana weekend or other ministry after you've been married a little while. Now, when we reverted back to our Catholic faith, by that time we had children, so we didn't have a chance to go on a weekend. But there are so many good books and recordings and tapes and things like that that you can help to fortify yourself through the week. and seek out holy friends. Now, as you're trying to live a holy life and getting back, getting back into your path of faith, it's probably not going to be you can hang with the guys at the bar, all the time, or, from the strip joint. You probably want to look for new friends. And that'll happen over time. You'll meet new friends as you pursue this. Okay? Watch what items come into your home. Watch what kind of magazines come into your home. Watch what's on your television set. Watch what comes through on the computer. Because you can't have a real holy home if you're having, smutty things. Can I say that? Yeah. Come into your home. Okay? It just doesn't work. And try to make your home into a truly domestic church. Now, I talked earlier about my mother. My mom used to give me, when we were kind of, wishy-washy Catholics, she used to give me all kinds of gifts and stuff, Catholic gifts. So she gave me this beautiful cross. And I remember thinking, Mom, taking the stuff and throwing it in the back closet somewhere, And I'm really embarrassed and ashamed to tell you how much good stuff I probably lost or misplaced. But when I reconverted back to my Catholic faith, I couldn't wait to get that stuff out and start using it. That resurrection cross now has a prominent place in our home. And I can tell you, we had our sixth child was a stillbirth. And after that happened, I really felt like I wanted my home to be surrounded by Mary and especially baby Jesus because of the loss I went through. So we didn't have a lot of money, so I started ordering religious things from eBay. And then, I don't have very good memory, so things would come in and the kids were like, Mom, what's in the box? I'm like, I don't know, it's going to help you. But it helped take it helped me to get those things in the house. And I would get a print, I'd give it to Peter, and he would dutifully matte and frame the 401. But he did that because he knew that I needed that. And just having those items in the home, just gave me a sense of peace and serenity. And I think it helps the children too. You're not apt to act out as much as, Jesus looking at them right over there.
Or some of those pictures you got the eyes.
Have a Bible in your house and have it prominently displayed. Now I know, you guys are busy working and stuff like that. Just you have it up, you can just read a few verses every day. That'll help you. Have a catechism of the Catholic Church because you will be challenged on your Catholic faith. Somebody who's not a Catholic or maybe not even a Christian will come to you and say, well, Catholics believe this. And if you don't have the catechism and you can't check it, you won't know. So this way you can double check and say, you know what, we don't believe that, and here's why, let me tell you about it. Or you can say, I don't know the answer to that, but I can get back to you. Religious notes. I have a note that I write all the time. It just helps me to touch base, say a little prayer. It's a good reminder to have during the day. Live the liturgical calendar. The liturgical calendar, things happen every day, all year round, besides Christmas and Easter. In 3 weeks, you guys are going to have a great chance to live it because Lent is coming. So you can plan right now. What am I going to do for that? What am I going to get up for that? What books do I want to read through that? You can plan now for how you're going to commemorate Ash Wednesday. How are you going to live a holy Lent?
And there's another day coming up on Monday. St. Valentine's Day started out as St. Valentine's Day, Catholic martyr in 500. So, that's another way you can live your liturgical calendar. Find out who he is. Find out what he did. Why is he given the day that he's given?
Yeah. Now, one thing I can say, when we reverted back, I was gung-ho. I wanted to celebrate everything. You can't do that, We started picking out things that were really important to us. So on St. Peter's feast day, maybe we have a fish dinner there. My second son, his middle name is Thomas. On St. Thomas Day, we make St. Thomas Day cookies, and we celebrate, those are just sugar cookies with little red dots on them for the 5 weeks of Christ. Just little things like that to help you remember the day and make it special for you. And then that's how you build traditions in your family. I would also say, when you can, include your in-laws and your parents when you can. Because, you may not like your in-laws, but they did raise the wonderful person that you're going to marry, right? And it's a great way to honor your mother and your father. It's a great way to honor your spouse. To include them into your celebrations and to listen to them because they do have something to offer.
I'm going to talk now about purity before and during marriage. I want to reiterate that we here are presenting to you the teachings of the Catholic Church. And it's claimed by its worthy of beliefs based on our own experience. This isn't the Gospel of Peter or the first epistle of Alana to the Abronites. This is what our faith teaches and what merely its messengers. John Paul II, to the young people of Poland on the 13th of June, 1999. The culture of death is determined to destroy purity of heart. One of its strategies is to deliberately create doubt about the value of the human attitude, which we call the virtue of chastity. This is something particularly dangerous when the attack is aimed at the sensitive consciousness of children and young people. The culture by which this way prepares or even destroys the correct relationship between individuals is a culture of death, where a man cannot live without love. Purity is a single-minded, having a single purpose, which is to glorify God. You have to make up your mind if you're going to use and save your purity, but only use your sexuality in ways that give glory and honor to God. I know this is difficult. One of my favorite passages in the Bible is about gold tested in fire. But first it has to be tested in fire. Gold has to be heated really hot, and the impurities roll to the top of it. And then you can scrape them off and you end up with pure gold. That's what that means, tested in fire. And so you kind of have to go through some sacrifice to make yourself true gold. Blessings are the pure of heart. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. I cannot say strong enough, unless you strive for the purity of heart, you have a great deal of difficulty finding God in your marriage. It's quite simply put your relationship at risk. Purity of heart consists of cultivating virtue of purity, both in body and in soul. If you think about our human nature, you realize that physical desires can impair or sometimes even override our better judgment. It used to be called avoid the near occasion of sin. And that applies today. We must be aware of the things we allow ourselves to see and hear, knowing that we can be tempted to sin. Again, we talk about the books, the magazines, the TV shows you watch, conversations on the internet. You kind of want to avoid all that. You have heard that it was said of them of old, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say to you, wherever you look at a woman with lust after her, you have already committed adultery with her. You were a man who was already committed adultery with her in his heart. Society tries to convince you of many errors. It says, look but don't touch. But in reality, what happens is a wandering eye can lead to a wandering imagination, which can ultimately lead to a wandering heart. Sometimes the body will go as well. So I'm going to ask you to do something that's really hard right now in preparation for your marriage. Something that really a lot of people consider old-fashioned. I'm going to ask you to do something that nobody asks anymore, and that's to remain chaste for this day for your marriage night. That means refraining from sex. If your goal is to get each other to heaven, to live a sacramental marriage, get started off on the right foot. If you haven't been pure, it's a great time to start over, to go to confession. It takes a lot of effort, and you have to be vigilant. But if you find that by striving for purity, the rewards are greater than you expect. The analogy is like fasting for food heightens the taste of food when you can eat it. The same holds true in your marriage. If you keep your imaginations pure and try to reserve your thoughts of the sexual nature for your spouse alone, you will be practicing purity of heart. In the consecrated Mass, the priest says, this is my body. We would like you to be able to repeat these words with your spouse on your wedding night. This divine mystery only achieves its fully meaning when the body when bodily purity has been preserved. This is something that you can help each other with. There will probably come a time in your married life that you'll be asked to sacrifice your sexuality for your marriage. Sickness, pregnancy, business trips. Prove that to yourself and your spouse now that you can stand the test.
Kimberly Hahn tells the story of two engaged people. The young lady wanted to have sex right away with her fiance, and he kept putting her off, and she kept trying a little harder, and he resisted. And finally she said to him, what's the matter? Why don't you want to have sex with me? And he said, honey, I am testing my